Ramesses II proclaimed himself Ramesses the Great, and one thing is certain, he was indeed one of the greatest Egyptian pharaohs. Even though much has been written about him, there are at least 5 other things you probably didn't know about Ramesses II. On this enormous stone sculpture, we see Ramesses II as a child, protected by a falcon god. We know it's him because of how he is depicted, as well as the inscription that runs around the base of his statuary group. However, the representation isn't only symbolic. The sculptures of his gigantic work of art, measuring 2.31 meters tall, also used 3D effects to slip in Ramesses' name. In the ancient Egyptian language, Ramesses was pronounced Ramessu. Overlooking the head of a young king is the sun, read as Ra. The sovereign is depicted here as a young boy with his index finger on his lips. In ancient Egyptian, a hieroglyph of a child with a finger on the lips is pronounced Mes. And in his hand, Ramesses II is holding what is called a su in Egyptian, a reed. So like a rebus, the name of Ramesses II is read Ra-me-su. He was therefore hiding in plain sight, highly visible, yet hidden from those who didn't know how to read, which was the case for most of the population. Various documents reveal the names of the 48 sons and 60 daughters that Ramesses II had. That may sound like a lot of children, but it's far from the actual number. First of all, it's because not everything was documented in those days. Secondly, since sons of concubines, generally beautiful women who had no noble or royal pedigree, did not have any claim to a throne, they were left out of the royal archives, not to mention the daughters, who were given even less consideration. Also, as long as children of royal wives were not yet in their teens, their risk of dying before adulthood was high, so nobody really paid any attention to them until they were 12 or 13. Since Ramesses II had more than 200 wives and was still robust enough to marry a Hittite princess when he was in his 60s, he did not just have 108 children, but at least somewhere between 200 and 300. In 1976, a team of scientists assigned to treat Ramesses' mummy, which was infected by fungi, made an improbable discovery. In the bituminous resin used during mummification and found inside the pharaoh's abdomen, they detected traces of Nicotiana leaves. Some specialists naturally made the link to Nicotiana tabacum, a plant that produces tobacco, but only one genus of a plant, not a species, was identified. However, there are many different species of Nicotiana, such as Nicotiana africanum, which, as its name implies, grows in Africa. This raised all sorts of theories, including the possibility that the mummy of Ramesses II was fake. To this day, even though Nicotiana was found in other Egyptian mummies, at the Egyptian Museum of Munich and the Manchester Museum, this discovery remains a mystery. Embalmers needed to be very familiar with anatomy, so that they knew how to remove the lungs, intestines, liver and spleen from the chest and abdomen of a corpse without removing the heart, which the deceased person needed for Judgment Day, when his heart, said to contain all the good and bad deeds he committed during his lifetime, was weighted. But this took skill, as they had to grope blindly, elbow deep, in the corpse's abdomen, which was never an easy task. So this explains how the embalmer who eviscerated Ramesses II accidentally removed his heart. It was later mummified, wrapped up in blue and yellow strips of cloth with gold thread tied around it before it was placed back in the chest. We don't know if the same embalmer mummified the pharaoh's heart, but he, too, made a mistake and put the heart back in the wrong place. For the moment, Tutankhamun is the only pharaoh buried in the Valley of the Kings whose mummy was left untouched by ancient grave robbers. We know that there was an attempt to rob the tomb of Ramesses II about 50 years after his death. Then, a successful intrusion attempt took place about 40 years later. The mummy of Ramesses II was damaged, and the reigning pharaoh decided to move it to the tomb of his father, Seti I. Later, another king brought his mummy out temporarily so it could be carefully restored. It was then put back into his father's tomb, and about 200 years after the death of Ramesses II, when the Valley of the Kings was no longer a very safe place for dead pharaohs, his mummy was taken out of his tomb again. We know all this because of the inscription on the bust of a wooden coffin that housed the royal mummy after his tomb was raided. The mummy of Ramesses II, among other royal mummies that were in danger, were moved to another tomb dug in the same mountain but in another sector, named Deir el-Bahari. This is the famous Deir el-Bahari mummy cache.